Admiral Kethver stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the blue-green planet below burn. Smoke clouds rose from what had been human cities just hours ago. His forearms crossed in satisfaction as he reviewed the battle reports flooding his command screens. "Another human settlement destroyed, Admiral," his tactical officer reported. The insect-like Zephyrian clicked his mandibles in what passed for a smile among his species. Their resistance was, pathetic. The massive Galactic Alliance fleet hung in space around the human world of New Geneva. 3,000 ships from a dozen different alien species had converged on this remote human colony. It was supposed to be one of humanity's most defended worlds. The intelligence reports had warned of fierce resistance, advanced weapons, and tactical brilliance that had made humans a growing concern among the older galactic races. Instead, they found barely 200 human ships. Old designs, outdated weapons, and tactics that seemed pulled from textbooks written centuries ago. The human fleet had fought bravely, but bravery meant nothing against overwhelming numbers and superior technology. How many human ships escaped? Kethver asked, his primary eyes focused on the tactical display while his secondary eyes monitored his bridge crew. 17, sir. All heavily damaged. They jumped to hyperspace in different directions. Our pursuit squadrons lost them in the asteroid fields. Kethver nodded. 17 ships from a fleet of 200. The humans had been crushed so completely it was almost disappointing. For months, the Galactic Alliance had heard disturbing reports about human expansion. Stories of human colonies appearing in systems claimed by other species. Tales of human merchant ships that seemed to carry military-grade sensors. Whispers of human diplomats who asked too many questions about fleet movements and defensive positions. The Council of Species had decided that humanity needed to be taught their place in the galactic order. Humans were newcomers, barely 3 centuries since their first contact with galactic civilization. They needed to learn that expansion had rules, and those rules were enforced by species who had sailed between stars for millennia. "Signal the fleet," Kethver commanded. "Begin bombardment of the remaining population centers. Leave nothing that could support future human military operations." The order went out across the communication networks. Ships from the proud Alterian Republic positioned their plasma cannons. The hive mind vessels of the collective synchronized their targeting computers. Even the mysterious Voidwalkers emerged from their shadow space to add their exotic weapons to the bombardment. For 3 days, they had swept through human space, attacking 7 different colonies. Each battle had been the same story. Human defenders appeared quickly, fought with surprising coordination, but were simply overwhelmed by superior numbers and technology. The humans seemed to favor kinetic weapons, magnetic railguns, and missile systems that were impressive for their technological level, but useless against modern energy shields. "Admiral," the communications officer called out, her tentacles dancing across her control panel. "We're receiving priority signals from the other task forces." "Display them." The main screen shifted to show 6 other alien admirals, each commanding their own section of the massive fleet. Admiral Threx of the Alterian Republic was first to speak, his blue-scaled features showing satisfaction. "New Edinburgh has fallen," he reported. Human resistance collapsed after 4 hours. "We're beginning resource extraction operations." "Olympus Station destroyed," added Admiral Yorthek of the Collective. Human evacuation ships were intercepted. No survivors. One by one, the reports came in. 7 human colonies attacked simultaneously. 7 victories for the Galactic Alliance. The human response had been swift but inadequate. Their scattered defense fleets were no match for the coordinated assault. "Total human ships destroyed?" Kethver asked. "Preliminary count shows 1,400 human vessels eliminated," his tactical officer reported. 47 human ships escaped to hyperspace. All major human industrial sites in this sector have been neutralized. Kethver felt a moment of genuine disappointment. The Council had spent months preparing for this campaign. Intelligence services had worked overtime to map human shipping routes, identify their hidden bases, and catalog their military capabilities. War colleges had run simulations. The greatest military minds from a dozen species had contributed to the battle plans, all of that preparation for such a brief conflict. Humanity had simply not been ready for galactic-scale warfare. "Sir," the communications officer interrupted his thoughts. "We're receiving a transmission from the human survivors. They're requesting terms for surrender. Put it through." The main screen changed to show a human female in a damaged military uniform. Behind her, smoke filled what appeared to be the bridge of a badly damaged ship. Her dark skin was marked with cuts, and her left arm hung uselessly at her side. "This is Captain Sarah Chun of the human vessel Defiance," she said, her voice steady despite her obvious injuries. "I'm authorized to negotiate on behalf of the surviving human forces in this sector." Kethver studied the human carefully. Even in defeat, she showed no signs of the fear or submission he expected. Her eyes held something that made him slightly uncomfortable, not defiance exactly, but a kind of patient determination. "I am Admiral Kethver of the Galactic Alliance Fleet," he replied. "You are in no position to negotiate, Captain. Your forces have been destroyed. Your colonies burn. What terms could you possibly offer?" "Evacuation of civilian populations in exchange for our surrender," Chun answered immediately. "We have 3 million civilians on worlds throughout this sector. Guarantee their safe passage to neutral systems. And we'll stand down our remaining military assets." The request was reasonable, and mercy toward defeated enemies was considered honorable among most galactic species. Kethver was about to agree when Admiral Threx's voice cut through the communication channel. "Admiral Kethver, I advise against any agreements with the humans. Our intelligence suggests they're using this time to prepare some kind of counterattack." Kethver's mandibles clicked in amusement. "Counterattack? Captain Chun, my sensors show 17 damaged human ships in this entire sector. What possible counterattack could you mount?" Something flickered across the human's face. For just a moment, her controlled expression slipped, and Kethver saw what might have been pity. "Admiral," she said quietly, "you've defeated the Colonial Defense Force. Those were our local security ships, designed to handle pirates and smugglers. What you haven't encountered yet is the Human Defense Navy." "Explain the difference," Kethver demanded. "The Colonial Defense Force protects individual worlds and local shipping routes. The Human Defense Navy protects humanity." Chun paused, and when she continued, her voice carried a weight that sent an unexpected chill through Kethver's 4 hearts. "Admiral, you've been fighting our Coast Guard. Our actual military hasn't arrived yet." Before Kethver could respond, every sensor on his ship began screaming warnings simultaneously. His tactical officer's voice rose in panic. "Sir! Massive hyperspace signatures detected. Multiple contacts dropping out of FTL." The main screen automatically shifted to external cameras. At first, Kethver saw nothing but the familiar star field. Then space began to ripple like water disturbed by falling stones. The ripples grew larger, more numerous, until it seemed like reality itself was bending. "How many ships?" Kethver demanded. I can't get an accurate count, sir. The hyperspace distortions are interfering with our sensors." "Preliminary readings suggest at least 5,000 contacts." 5,000. Kethver felt his secondary stomachs clench in fear. That was nearly twice the size of his own fleet. "Fleet composition?" "Unknown ship designs, sir. They're not matching anything in our databases. Wait. Getting clearer readings now. The hyperspace distortions began to fade, and the new arrivals became visible. Kethver had seen warships from every major galactic species. He had studied military vessels from civilizations that had fallen millennia ago. But these ships were unlike anything in his experience. They were massive, angular, and completely black. No running lights, no decorative elements, no external features that didn't serve an obvious military purpose. They looked less like ships and more like weapons that happened to be ship-shaped. "Size estimate on the lead vessels?" he asked. "The largest ones are 30 kilometers long, sir. Mass estimates suggest they're mostly armor and weapons." 30 kilometers. Kethvar's own flagship was barely 8 kilometers long and was considered a massive dreadnought by galactic standards. Are they responding to our communications? No, sir, they're maintaining communication silence, but, sir, they're moving into formation around our fleet. Kethvar watched the tactical display as thousands of human ships positioned themselves with mechanical precision. They weren't charging into battle like the colonial defenders had. They weren't even targeting his ships with their weapons. They were simply, surrounding the entire Galactic Alliance fleet. Captain Chun, he said, turning back to the communication screen. Are these your reinforcements? The human captain looked tired. Admiral, those are the advanced scouts for the Third Fleet. Admiral Harrison will want to discuss the situation with you personally. How many ships does your Third Fleet contain? Approximately 50. The waiting was the worst part. For 6 hours, the black human ships held their positions around the Galactic Alliance fleet without moving, without communicating, without showing any sign of what they planned to do next. The silence stretched Admiral Kethvar's nerves until he found himself checking sensors every few minutes, hoping for some change in the tactical situation. His communication systems finally activated with an incoming transmission. The main screen cleared to show a human male in an immaculate black uniform. He was older than Captain Chun, with gray streaking his dark hair and lines around his eyes that spoke of years spent making difficult decisions. Behind him, the bridge of his ship was a study in efficient military design, clean surfaces, softly glowing displays, and crew members who moved with the precision of a well-oiled machine. Admiral Kethvar, the human said in a voice that carried quiet authority. I am Admiral Marcus Harrison, commanding the Human Defense Navy Third Fleet. I believe we need to have a conversation. Kethvar straightened in his command chair, trying to project confidence he didn't feel. Admiral Harrison, I am authorized to speak for the Galactic Alliance fleet. Good, Harrison clasped his hands behind his back. Let me begin by clarifying our current situation. In the past 72 hours, your fleet has attacked 7 human colonies, killing approximately 3 million civilians and destroying 1,400 defensive vessels. Under human military law, this constitutes an act of genocide and unprovoked warfare. Your species was expanding beyond authorized boundaries, Kethvar replied, fighting to keep his voice steady. The Council of Species voted to enforce galactic territorial agreements. Harrison's expression didn't change, but something cold flickered in his eyes. Admiral, humanity never signed any territorial agreements with your council. We were never invited to join your deliberations about our own expansion. You simply decided that we should be confined to a specific region of space. And when we didn't comply with rules we never agreed to, you attacked our civilians? The human admiral gestured, and new displays appeared around his image showing detailed recordings of the recent battles. Kethvar watched in growing discomfort as his own ships bombarded human population centers, destroying evacuation transports and orbital habitats. However, Harrison continued, I'm not here to debate the legalities of your actions. I'm here to discuss consequences. You are outnumbered, Kethvar said, though he was no longer certain that was true. Our fleet contains the finest vessels from 12 different species. We have technology refined over millennia of galactic warfare. Let me show you something interesting, Harrison said. He gestured again, and the tactical display on Kethvar's own ship suddenly changed without any input from his crew. What ... How are you accessing our systems? Kethvar's tactical officer's voice rose in alarm. Your communication networks were surprisingly easy to penetrate, Harrison explained calmly. Your cybersecurity appears to be about 2 centuries behind your weapons technology. But that's not what I wanted to show you. The hijacked display zoomed out, showing the local star system from a much wider perspective. Kethvar felt his blood freeze as he saw the true scope of the human presence. The 5,000 ships he had detected were just the tip of a massive fleet. Spread throughout the system, using asteroids and planetary bodies for cover, were tens of thousands of additional human vessels. Stealth technology, Harrison explained. Your sensors are quite impressive, but they're designed to detect ships using energy signatures familiar to galactic civilization. Our vessels operate on different principles. Kethver's mind raced as he tried to count the ships on the display. The numbers were staggering. How many? The Third Fleet currently has 47,000 vessels in this system, Harrison said matter-of-factly. The First and Second Fleets are positioned to cut off your retreat routes. The Fourth through Eighth Fleets are moving to secure the systems you recently attacked. That's impossible. No species has ever maintained fleets of that size. Harrison smiled, and it wasn't a pleasant expression. Admiral, you're thinking in terms of traditional galactic warfare. Small fleets, limited engagements, territorial disputes over individual systems. Humanity doesn't fight that way. The human admiral gestured again, and new information flooded Kethver's screens. Ship construction facilities hidden in asteroid fields. Massive industrial complexes built inside hollow moons. Weapons testing ranges in empty systems that didn't appear on any galactic charts. For 200 years, humanity has been preparing for exactly this scenario, Harrison continued. We knew that galactic civilization would eventually see us as a threat. We knew you would come to put us in our place. So we prepared. Your colonies were barely defended, Kethver protested. Your ships were inferior. The Colonial Defense Force serves a specific purpose. They handle local security, pirates, minor disputes. They're not designed for major warfare. Harrison's voice hardened. But more importantly, they serve as an early warning system. Every action your fleet has taken in the past 3 days has been monitored and recorded by Defense Force ships pretending to flee. On the tactical display, Kethver watched recordings of his own fleet's movements, weapon capabilities, formation tactics, and communication patterns. Everything had been cataloged with disturbing precision. You've been studying us, he said. We've been dissecting your capabilities completely. Every weapon signature, every shield frequency, every tactical doctrine your various species employ. Harrison leaned forward slightly. Admiral, we know more about your fleet's strengths and weaknesses than you do. To demonstrate the point, Harrison gestured once more. Kethver's own ship suddenly powered down its main weapons. Shields fluctuated and non-critical systems began shutting down one by one. Stop this, Kethver demanded. You're interfering with our ship systems. Actually, I'm demonstrating something important, Harrison replied calmly. Every ship in your fleet contains components manufactured by species that trade with humanity. Computer processors from the Alterian Republic, communication arrays from the Zephyrian hives, power regulation systems from the Collective. Over the past century, human trade networks have become deeply integrated into galactic supply chains. Kethver felt sick as understanding dawned. You've compromised our equipment. We've prepared for every eventuality. The components aren't sabotaged, they function exactly as designed. But they also respond to specific override signals that only we know about. Harrison's voice remained perfectly level. Every ship in your fleet can be disabled without firing a shot. Across the Galactic Alliance fleet, similar system failures were cascading. Ships found their weapons offline, their shields failing, their navigation systems providing false readings. Panic filled the communication channels as captains reported loss of control over their own vessels. This is a violation of galactic warfare conventions. Kethver protested. What conventions? Harrison asked. The same conventions that allowed you to bombard civilian populations? The same rules that permitted you to attack evacuation ships? The human admiral's composure finally cracked slightly, revealing cold anger underneath. Admiral, you came here to teach humanity about galactic law. Consider this our response to your lesson. Kethver watched helplessly as his mighty fleet was reduced to drifting hulks. 3,000 of the most advanced warships in the galaxy, representing the combined military might of 12 species, rendered harmless without a single weapon being fired. What do you want? He asked finally. Justice, Harrison replied immediately, but not vengeance. Humanity could destroy your fleet entirely. We could hunt down every ship that participated in these attacks and reduce them to scrap metal. But that would make us no better than you. The human admiral gestured, and ship systems throughout the Galactic Alliance fleet began returning to normal operation. Weapons came online, shields strengthened, navigation cleared. Instead, we're going to make a different kind of statement. Your ships are free to leave this system. Return to your various governments and deliver this message. The age of galactic bullying is over. You're letting us go? Kethver couldn't hide his surprise. We're sending you home with proof of what happened here. Every ship in your fleet has been comprehensively scanned. We know the composition of your armor, the frequency of your shields, the yield of your weapons. We have detailed technical specifications for every vessel you brought to this fight. Harrison's image stepped aside, revealing a new tactical display that made Kethver's heart skip several beats. Thousands of human ships were moving into attack formations, their weapons powering up with energy signatures unlike anything in the galactic databases. These are our actual military vessels, Admiral. Ships designed specifically to fight galactic civilization's best technology. Every weapon system optimized to penetrate your shields. Every defensive measure calibrated against your known capabilities. The energy readings were off the charts. Individual human ships were showing weapon yields that matched Kethver's entire heavy cruiser squadron. The largest human vessels registered power signatures that boggled the mind. You're threatening us, Kethver said weakly. I'm educating you, Harrison corrected. When you return home, you'll report that humanity cannot be bullied. 3 weeks after the confrontation in the New Geneva system, Admiral Kethver stood before the emergency session of the Galactic Council. The Great Chamber housed representatives from 47 different species. Their various forms of communication creating a symphony of clicks, whistles, electronic tones, and telepathic resonances that the translation systems converted into understandable speech. The mood in the chamber was unlike anything Kethver had experienced in his long military career. Fear, anger, and uncertainty radiated from the assembled delegates as they struggled to comprehend the reports flooding in from across the galaxy. The human fleets have appeared in 17 different systems simultaneously, reported Councillor Vextha of the Alterian Republic. Her blue scales had lost their usual lustrous shine, and her voice carried the strain of sleepless nights spent processing impossible intelligence reports. They're not attacking, but they're making their presence known in ways that cannot be ignored. Ambassador Zirikoth of the Collective gestured with his mechanical appendages, causing holographic displays to fill the air above the council chamber. Our analysts have confirmed Admiral Kethver's initial reports. Human fleet strength exceeds anything in recorded galactic history. Conservative estimates suggest they possess over 300,000 military vessels. A wave of shocked silence rippled through the chamber. 300,000 ships was more than the combined navies of every species in the galaxy. How is this possible? Demanded Representative Mortai of the Voidwalkers, her form shifting between dimensions as her species did when agitated. Our intelligence networks detected no massive ship construction, no unusual resource allocation, no evidence of military buildup on this scale. Kethver stepped forward, his forearms spread in a gesture of formal address. Honored counselors, I have spent the past 3 weeks investigating these same questions with the finest intelligence analysts in the Alliance. What we've discovered is both sophisticated and terrifying. The main display shifted to show a 3-dimensional map of local galactic space. Thousands of systems glowed with different colors representing various levels of human activity. For over 2 centuries, humanity has been conducting what can only be described as the most comprehensive long-term strategy in galactic history, Kethver continued. While we saw them as minor traders and explorers, they were systematically preparing for inevitable conflict with galactic civilization. The map zoomed in to show specific systems, revealing the true scope of human preparation. Hidden shipyards in asteroid fields, manufacturing complexes built inside gas giant moons, resource extraction operations in regions considered worthless by other species. They identified systems that appeared uninhabitable to us, worlds with high radiation, extreme temperatures, toxic atmospheres. Then they developed technology to thrive in those environments, Kethver explained. While we competed for the same comfortable, Earth-like worlds, humans were claiming territories we didn't even want. Counselor Vexta leaned forward. The resource requirements for this level of construction would still be enormous. How did they acquire the materials without detection? By becoming indispensable to our supply chains, Kethver replied grimly. Human trading companies have spent generations establishing themselves as reliable suppliers of common components. Computer chips, communication arrays, power regulation systems, standard industrial equipment, items so common and unremarkable that no one tracked their origin carefully. The implications struck the chamber like a physical blow. Virtually every advanced civilization in the galaxy relied on trade networks that included human suppliers. But their true genius, Kethver continued, was understanding that galactic civilization operates on predictable patterns. We saw their rapid expansion and assumed they were naive newcomers who didn't understand territorial boundaries. We expected them to react like other species, with surprise, anger, and eventual submission to superior force. The display changed to show recorded communications between human colonies during the recent attacks. Even under bombardment, human civilians had maintained coordinated evacuation procedures while defense forces had transmitted detailed tactical intelligence to hidden monitoring stations. Every human colony attacked was equipped with advanced communication arrays that transmitted real-time intelligence about our capabilities. The desperate defense actions we observed were actually carefully controlled intelligence-gathering operations. Ambassador Zyrkoth's mechanical voice carried a note of grudging respect. They sacrificed their own people to gather military intelligence. No, Kethver corrected. They sacrificed expendable military assets while their population centers were already being evacuated through hidden routes. We never detected. Casualty reports from human colonies show that over 60% of civilian populations had been secretly relocated. Before our attacks began, the chamber erupted in startled exclamations. As delegates realized the full scope of human preparation, not only had they built an overwhelming military force in secret, they had anticipated the specific timing and nature of the Galactic Alliance's response. What do they want? Asked Representative Mortaida as if summoned by the question. The chamber's main communication system activated. The central holographic display cleared to show Admiral Marcus Harrison, still in his austere black uniform, addressing the Council from what appeared to be the bridge of his flagship. Honored members of the Galactic Council, Harrison began, his voice carrying clearly through the translation systems. I am Admiral Harrison of the Human Defense Navy. I understand you've been discussing recent events. So I thought this would be an appropriate time for humanity to address your concerns directly. Counselor Vexta recovered from her surprise first. Admiral, this is a closed session of the Galactic Council. Humanity has no standing to participate in our deliberations. With respect, Counselor, that's exactly the problem we need to solve, Harrison replied calmly. For 2 centuries, humanity has watched your council make decisions that affect our species without any input from us. You've drawn territorial boundaries around our space, established trade regulations that limit our commerce, and made security agreements that treat us as a potential threat to be contained. The human admiral gestured, and new displays appeared showing detailed charts of galactic political agreements, trade pacts, and territorial claims. We tried diplomatic channels. We requested formal recognition, applied for council membership, offered to negotiate territorial agreements. Every attempt was either ignored or rejected with explanations that humanity was too young, too aggressive, or too different to participate in galactic governance. Representative Mortai's form stabilized as she focused on Harrison's words. You were expanding too rapidly? Taking systems without authorization. Authorization from whom? Harrison asked pointedly. We never signed any agreement recognizing your territorial claims. We never accepted your authority over unoccupied systems. Yet you treated our expansion as theft and responded with military force against civilian populations. The chamber fell silent as the undeniable logic of Harrison's words sank in. The Galactic Council had indeed assumed authority over humanity without any legal basis. What is humanity's position now? Asked Counselor Vextha carefully. Harrison's expression became more serious. We're proposing a new galactic order based on actual cooperation instead of dominance by the oldest species. A system where expansion rights are negotiated fairly, where trade agreements benefit all parties, and where military force is used only for genuine self-defense. And if we refuse? Ambassador Zerkoth asked. Then you'll discover that the old system of galactic politics has become unsustainable, Harrison replied. Humanity now possesses sufficient military force to defend ourselves against any coalition you could assemble. We also control enough industrial capacity to disrupt galactic trade networks indefinitely. To demonstrate the point, Harrison gestured, and the display showed the current positions of human fleets throughout the galaxy. They weren't occupying systems or threatening worlds, but their presence near major trade routes and strategic resources was unmistakable. We're not interested in conquest, Harrison continued, but we will not allow the current system to continue. Too many species have suffered under the arbitrary rule of the Council. Too many civilizations have been forced to accept unfavorable agreements or face military action. Representative Mortai shifted uncomfortably. What exactly are you proposing? A new galactic charter, Harrison announced. Equal representation for all spacefaring species. Territorial rights based on actual settlement and development, not historical claims. Trade agreements that benefit developing civilizations, not just established powers. Military cooperation focused on genuine threats like pirates and rogue states, not suppressing emerging species. The proposal was revolutionary. For millennia, galactic civilization had operated on the principle that older, more established species naturally held authority over newcomers. The idea of actual equality between species of different technological levels was almost unthinkable. And if we disagree with this new charter? Counselor Vextha asked. Harrison's expression hardened slightly. Then you'll find that humanity is perfectly capable of establishing